Hi, everybody, and Happy New Year. We haven't seen each other, or maybe we have, but thanks for being here. Thanks for accommodating the new shift and the time. I know that didn't please everybody. I did hear from one person that didn't work for. So, but then it worked for another person who was able to be here today. So, you know, I think the message in that is just do more things that more people can come to. How about that? So I'm excited about today. I've been getting some what do you call it? Input, download, info, nudges, all sorts of thing about being more engaged and what's the right word? Not engaged, but vocal, more vocal about being psychic. And so while I was, it tripped me up truthfully for a little bit to say I'm a psychic. And many of you have heard me say that, but it can be really hard for me to admit. But then I found a definition that Sonia Choquette put in her psychic pathway guidebook, that being psychic is your voice of your soul. So I'm like, voice of sacred synchronicity. Well, I might as well be voice of the soul. And that's really the translation of the word psychic in a Greek, I believe it's Greek translation. Is that right, Lena? You're Greek, means of the soul. And I'm like, well, I can do that. That's been my game since I started my business. What makes you tick is really about what's in your soul. So I sort of relaxed a little bit more about it. And then last year, I also had a handprint analysis done. And the handprint analysis shows that I'm a seer. And so that's another word for psychic, seer. Somebody else I've heard uses oracle. I don't know. I haven't looked these up, all of them. But anyway, I thought today would be fun to explore each of our own psychic abilities. And you might be surprised that you are a little bit on the weirdo side too. So I'm looking for company in this community. For it's not just me who went nuts and bonkers and started becoming a psychic, but maybe there's something for you too. But let's take a few minutes just to kind of pull the energies, and then I'll say hello to everybody and let you kind of introduce yourself a little bit too. So I'm just going to close my eyes and invite you to do the same. And just set aside whatever you were thinking about or working on earlier today, and you can pick it back up in 60 minutes from now. And just take a deep, relaxing breath. And that was so nice. I'm just going to take another one. And just the more breath that you can breathe in and hold in your lungs allows your body to settle in and relax a little bit. So do another deep breath. And just continue to breathe on your own, but in this quiet inward moment, think about what you would like to receive out of being here today. And just think about that. What would that look like? Would it be the synergy, the energy? Would it be hearing something that you really needed to hear today? Maybe just being in a community like this is perfect for you. So just think about that for a second. And so it is. And take one more deep breath. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Ooh. Here we are. So I'm thrilled to see we've got a few new faces here. I'm going to put it on the gallery view so I can see everybody. There's Ronnie. There she is. I saw you on the list here. Welcome. And Robert's still signing in. But I always love to let people introduce themselves a little bit, because this is a community of like-minded, like-hearted people. And it always gives us a chance to relate to one another. I noticed that I seem to be the old school person doing this these days. You know, I've been on other programs. I guess they have tons and tons of too many people to do the introductions. But I wanted to give us, since we're intimate, I would like you just to say your name, maybe where you live, and a short 1 or 2 words, if you can, of what brought you here today, what you'd like to receive. So who's going to start us out? Carrie, you're always the first one on the call. I think you start, and then Ronnie raised her hand. So let's start there.
Okay, so Carrie, I live in Fairfield, Iowa, the home of the Transcendental Meditation Center. And what brought me here is this is one of my circles that I've been involved with, the attraction plan and Jan since about 2015. And so just being in the circle with people that I've either been on courses with or that I've known for a number of years, it's the place to be when the time is right. And that's me right now.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Ronnie, how about you?
So I'm Ronnie and Ryan. I live in Connecticut. I met Jan through JV Directory, Mark. And I'm here today because I'm curious, and I'm a love coach and a magical life coach. So I'm the host of the Breathe, Love, and Magic podcast. So I'm interested in all things mystical, metaphysical, that kind of thing.
I had a cascade of goosebumps as you were saying all that.
Ronnie and I were at the JV virtual networking event in the breakout rooms together, and it was such a cool breakout because it was okay to talk about the mystical, magical side of life. So it was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Welcome, glad you're here. And somebody else. Annie.
I'm Ann. I live in the Twin Cities, Minnesota, and I have been trained as a certified strategic attraction coach with Jan and Alan a few years back, and Carrie was in my class. And so I always love this community, and this is a wonderful chance for me to be back in it. And I am working towards a new angle. I've been interested in self-care for a long time. I recently connected with the fact that I'm a burned out social worker who wants to be a solution for other social workers. I was part of a nursing home social workers group last week and heard more about the pain they're in right now. So I'm working on that. And I also have a new product, nutrition skincare product called Club Sparkle. And what I need to do is, it's mineral based. What I need to do is learn how to speak up. Open my mouth and talk. I am a much better listener than a talker. So clear vision for me physically and emotionally, mentally.
I was listening. I'm like a new follower of Coast to Coast. It's an AM radio station. It's syndicated and broadcast all over the world, and they have the most amazing topics. One of them was about I think you call it benevolent request, and that your angels can hear that when you say, I have a benevolent request. And that's for yourself. I'm probably saying this wrong, but this is what I remember. A benevolent request for yourself A benevolent prayer is usually for somebody else, but it's kind of like a prayer for yourselves. But he uses that word. I like that. So I heard that as a benevolent request.
Thank you. I've been way more in touch with angels the last 6 months too.
Mm.
Had angel healing and know they're more involved than ever in my life. So
Oh, there you go. They heard
Yeah.
that. All right. Ronnie,
Can I
did
just, quick
yeah.
question, what was the name of the radio show again, please?
Oh, the app, get the app called Coast to Coast. You are going to love it, Ronnie. Oh my gosh. Everyone here will love it. It is chock full of programs on all these things, like the Atlantean thing. They had a show on that. I listened to it 3 times.
Thank you.
Today was talking about death experiences where you have an experience along with someone as they're transitioning out. I mean, they talk about ETs. They talk about other things, but I've kind of been fixated on this one particular category. So anyway, check it out. Bridge, and then Kim.
I think Kim was first. Kim would like to go ahead.
Okay, Kim, why don't you go ahead?
Hi, I'm Kim, and I live in Boulder, Colorado. And I'm here because I love to dive into the magical, mystical aspects of life. I also was recently, a friend of mine arranged a gathering with a psychic, and she did a reading, and she said, well, you know, you're really psychic, don't you? And I said, I normally don't say that out loud, but yes, I do. I used to think of people and then they just appear all the time when I was in college. So I started noticing, and I'm in a stage of my life where I'm really doing more of the meditative side to go internal. I'm in a big transition with my husband. We're really creating next phase, next season together. And yeah, so I've been pulling back from most things because my life is really needing to, I have on my computer notice, what is God's Spirit saying? And then let go and actually follow that. And it's been a fun ride. So that's where I'm at right now. And again, I'll be leaving early, so I'll just quietly go. I have standing thing every Thursday that I have to be at like at about by 11:30. So, but I'm glad to tune in for a little bit.
Me too. I'm glad you're here. And I'll just say, since you're going to be leaving, and I'll talk to you about it more later, I am being guided to teach a class on becoming more psychic. So it's already, okay, nudge, got it, you know, lots of nudges. And I don't have a date nailed down. I don't have anything nailed down. I can't nail anything down these days, but it's coming. It's coming. And I do know the price for this group is going to be $97. I've already been told, this group, and it's going to be 6 sessions. But I will get you the date, and you'll be my premier group, I guess. So
I'm in.
all right, Bridge. I've been
Yeah,
thinking
hi.
about you, Bridge. I'm just like, I apologize. I didn't follow through to reach out, but I have wanted you to know I was thinking about your love.
Well, thank you, Jan. Great to see you and so many familiar faces as well. Just showing up here, Jan, is already like an uplifting part of, just being here. Okay, already I've seen you, so in a different space. So I love the good vibrations, the uplifting vibrations of these gatherings. I think the topic is very intriguing, psychic abilities, and I'm very curious, since whatever is in that realm probably doesn't have much to do with our personal self or ego or identity. So whatever opens us up to these transcendental, something beyond ourselves, very curious about that, whether it's meditation or anyway, whatever version of knowing our true nature is. So looking forward to that. And personally, at this point in my life, I'm trying to attract more financial resources, both at a corporate, at a personal level. And what's interesting about the psychic part, Jan, is that when we make choices or decisions, should I do this, should I do that, or how should I even reach out to someone? Usually I engage my thinking mind, right? Like we are analytical or whatever. So it's an intriguing possibility that through being more intuitive or psychic, as you're saying, can we have more clarity and certainty and confidence in terms of what we want to explore or where we want to go. So thanks.
Here's a tip that just because I don't want to forget it that I've been using. What does my soul want? There's just it's a question mark, so.
That's a beautiful, I'd love to follow that.
Okay, Mark. I have to
It's
open the door for the dog. I'm not far.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'll talk while you're opening the door. But yeah, it's such a perfect segue because you asked first why we were here, and you gave a couple of great reasons, and I just wanted to add all of the above to what you said, and then everybody else shared more of why we're all together in this deliciousness. And I think sacred synchronicity is a big piece of it, and going into the psychic is the next step. For a lot of us, I think it's what we're being called into. I particularly in Barry's program, when he did our one-on-one call, he goes through 7 different areas for me to focus on, and one of them was developing my own psychic ability, which he describes differently. Like intuition is for yourself, psychic ability is for somebody else. That's only his perspective on it, very much like what you were sharing with the perspective that you were hearing about a benevolent prayer or a benevolent request, the same kind of difference. But in addition to that, Anne was talking about being more aware of angels, and we all know that Alan passed on Easter morning on April, and since then he's been coming around more, and I've always been very just questioning my own belief in hearing the angels, and especially guidance and everything else, and second guessing it. And he's made it very clear and easy that it's real, and so I've opened up to that, which has allowed all of the other soul team and everything else. So I really appreciate all the sacred synchronicity of everyone coming together in this cauldron together.
Cool.
So after everyone's checked in, I have something to offer along this line, but I think there's still a couple of people to check in.
Okay. Let's see.
Okay, I start checking.
Lena, and then Robert.
So my name is Lena, and I live in Chicago, Illinois. I have seen, heard, known things ever since I was a kid. So it was really tough growing up because I had no one to talk to about being psychic. So had to kind of find my own way, shut it down for several years, opened it back up about 25 years ago, and still on the journey to fully owning it. But I've always been psychic. I have always been intuitive, whatever you want to go ahead and call it, and have known that I'm not completely of this world. So I've been working with Jan for many, many years. Also a strategic attraction coach. We just connect on a really great level and stay connected. And so here, just because it's a great place to be.
Yes, it is. Like attracts like. So here we are. Cool. Roberto.
Yes, ma'am.
Good to
How's
see
it
you.
going?
It's been a while.
Yeah, I know. And you know what? I really just clicked on this because it popped up on my in my email box. It's like we're starting in 15 minutes. I'm like, okay, I might as well join in.
There you go.
So I'm obviously here for a reason. And obviously those of you on the call have similar experiences to me. I'm more of a channel. I do kind of a channeled writing in the same format that Nostradamus did. So it's quatrains, 4 lines of 4. And I do a lot for military families, police, firefighters that have lost somebody. But people contact me for lots of reasons. So I've written probably close to 1,000 poems at this point, and I continue to package them in different formats based on different things. And I originally did them as full books, but it's kind of like trying to eat a 1-pound bag of M&Ms in one sitting. It's just overwhelming. So I've been converting them into journals so that, read 1 poem a day. There's some, pick out what guidance you can get from that, and then another one the next day. So good seeing some familiar faces on this call, including you, Jan.
Yes, and he wrote a beautiful poem about sacred synchronicity too. So I'll have to put that back out in our next email. So
I remember that poem. I
yeah,
didn't know that. Yeah, Robert, congrats. That was great.
yeah.
Thank you.
And also, I did this podcast with Ronnie. I'm behind on everything, you guys, if it involves follow through. So anyway, that's my story. So I have a quiz for you today.
You could say
Oh,
you're
wait.
you could say you're in divine and perfect timing and you're just on time.
Thank you.
Exactly. Sure.
Oh, yeah, I
Everything
forgot
happens when
that.
it's supposed to.
I know. And then there's this part of me that thinks otherwise, but thank you. I love you for reminding me. Oh, and Carrie, please. I don't want
So
to.
this came off of when you made the phrase of, what does your soul want? And it's a process that is related to the heart, in the sense that the heart has more neurons in the brain. And it starts with basically putting your hand or hands over your heart and doing a breathing where you're breathing in maybe 3 to 5 seconds and breathing out longer, 8 to 10 seconds. And in that space, there are 3 questions that can ask. One is, what does my heart want from me? What do I want from my heart? And there's a third one, which I have to go back and look at where this came from, but it's basically using this sort of physical connection and being in touch with how you can support your heart. And it's basically, my heart, what do I need to learn from you? My heart, what can I give you? Like that.
Nice. Very true.
Yeah, I love that, Carrie. I was just going to say, for me, I use that, not that specific practice, but just laying hands on the heart and breathing in. I definitely deepen my connection to that inner guidance, that psychic ability. And I often do it, just go out in the sunshine and close my eyes and feel the sun and my heart. And then that seems to be just a great opening practice. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. So I found a test. We're going to have a pop quiz to determine, are you really psychic or not? Okay. So you can just write down true or false. You don't have to say anything. Hey, you can write down the correct. I can give you this later. You don't have to write it all out if you want. Or if somebody is very ambitious, they could put it in the chat. All right, true or false? When I am with someone, I am aware of how they feel. If I meet someone for the first time, I form an accurate picture of what they are like. I can tell if someone is lying. Beyond your teenagers. Parents can usually see through that. I can change my plans easily if I get bad vibes. I can stand up to dominating energy. I can say no to someone. I trust myself to make decisions. I take care of my body. I knew something was going to happen before it did. I think of people and they call me the same day. I sense things before they happen. I have vibes about different things. I trust my intuition. I believe I have a higher self watching over me. So if you answered most of those as true, raise your hand. If you raised your hand, that means you're already psychic and intuitive. If you didn't raise your hand, it means it's something that can be developed. So just because you can't say no to somebody doesn't mean that you couldn't become able to say no. And when you're more tapped into, what's right for yourself and you're listening to your own inner guidance, then you have to say no to some things and yes to others. So this is just a little test.
So Jan, what I did on a scale of 1 to 10 as to where I would fit. So some
Okay.
of them came in a range within that idea. So
True.
I was thinking about the range too.
Yeah, range would be good. I wanted to make it a little simple, real simple.
I was kind of like, well, sometimes and sometimes not.
yeah,
Well,
Right,
I also
exactly,
thought about
exactly.
answering
And
that way, often or sometimes, rarely, but then you have to go into a whole measurement thing. But yeah, truthfully, there's something that you can't necessarily. Bye, Kimmy. See you soon. It doesn't mean that you can't become more psychic and intuitive if you start to learn what are some of the ins and outs of it. If you recognize that, oh yeah, there's an opportunity there. Because a lot of times we have these gifts, we take them for granted. We just think everybody's got it, right? Or perhaps you developed it as a child. I remember in my family growing up, they would say my mom has ESP, extrasensory perception. That was what I guess called back then. But nobody, in my opinion, looking back, nobody gave it much credibility. But my mom could tell if you were not telling the truth, that's for sure. And she could say, tell you things that you were thinking and you wouldn't know how she knew it, so those kind of things. Those are all indications that, it's not just your mom can do that. You can do that too. So what are some of the things that could make you, or things that you do that maybe you don't know you're doing, that you could offer as a tip? So one was Carrie shared those questions. And I shared what does my soul want? That's a question mark to help me be more psychic. What's some things that you could offer to the group that are tips or techniques? Mark, then Ronnie.
It's funny that you asked this because this is what I was thinking about when I was thinking about Alan before, because he really helped me to create this process, which is first coming actually from Divine Navigation with Rhonda Renee's work. I am divine purpose. That's my North Star. Aligned is my South Star. So I am divine purpose aligned through self-worth and recognition for the purpose of co-creating harmonious community. That's my chart. But that idea of alignment, of knowing who you are, whatever tools it is, human design, all this process of self-discovery is the first part. So the more you can do to know who you are, and then make every decision based on, is this serving who I am, the same thing with the soul wants, but having that as kind of the pinpoint of making all decisions. Does this support my highest being? And that is the discernment piece. And then the next piece is taking action. And it's really all three. You need to, and in fact, this comes from even the strategic attraction plan of what is the attractive action that you're taking. So when you're inspired to do something, and then you get the opportunity, the synchronicity shows up, and you don't take action, the voice gets quieter. To me, you almost lose it. But when you take action, it's like another possibility comes right behind it. And when you keep taking those inspired actions, and when you say no to the ones that are not in alignment, it's like rocket fuel for your life and your business.
Yeah.
And so those three things.
So what I'm gonna say about that tip is you got information. That information or that wisdom helps you to be more in tune, but it also helps you to be more psychic.
Mm.
And you got information about yourself and that's also, I think, is another really good tip about it.
Yes.
So that-
And yet just
so-
being open to it allows more of those tips and information to come in.
That's right. That's right.
Hold on.
So this is probably along the same line.
Well, Ronnie's going next. If you have a tip,
Oh, sorry.
let
Yeah,
Ronnie go,
okay.
and then you go after her.
Okay, I
Thank you.
didn't see that.
All right, thanks. So I want to reinforce the idea that when you get something, sometimes you feel like you're making it up and then you choose to ignore it. So I'll just tell a very short story that I was sitting on a couch, picture an L-shaped living room. One part of the L is the dining area and the other part is the couch. From the couch, I cannot see the dining area. So I'm sitting in the dining area, I mean in the living room, but I have a candle on my dining table, okay? And I have tin foil under it just in case, whatever. So I'm sitting there reading my book, minding my own business, and I hear tables burning. And I'm like, what? Oh, that's ridiculous. If the table was burning, I would smell it. That's so foolish. I don't understand what, and like, how hard would it be to get up? So eventually I had to get up because I had to go to the bathroom. And sure enough, the candle had fallen out of the holder, rolled off the tinfoil, and the wick was burning a hole in my table.
Wow.
So that's a dramatic example of how when you hear a message,
Mhm.
pay attention.
I know. That is dramatic. Yeah.
And then, along those lines, when the first night that I worked at psychic fairs many years ago in the 90s, and I just kind of got thrown into it because my girlfriend was like, I need another psychic. You're going to be a psychic tonight. I'm like, I'm not a psychic. I was so freaked out. Anyway, so what I learned was stop doubting yourself, because if you have 15 minutes to give a reading, there's no time to doubt yourself. You just got to say stuff, you just got to give out whatever you get and say it and stop holding it back and doubting yourself and messing it up and whatever. You just have to share it. And the more you do that, the more that comes in. So those are my experiences.
That's a great tip because I've had that experience too. The more I do it, the more I just sometimes I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to say. And then you just say something and then it starts coming through. So cool. Carrie.
Yes, so mine's probably along the line of the idea of Mark, that it's sort of information coming in. And it does tie into what I do in my coaching. where I'm able to hear someone say something, and I use the word tweak, but really what it is that I can respond in a way to bring more clarity, bring more awareness. So and in doing it myself. And I've been doing it for a while, but I have a quote that really emphasizes what this idea of having that clarity and that awareness. Awareness gives us clarity. Clarity gives us focus. Focus gives us action. Action gives us results. And ultimately, that leads to fulfillment and bliss. You cannot be in love, in bliss, be joyful without awareness. It is a fundamental tool. If you have mastered awareness, you have mastered your life. And the other piece is that when we're in a habit, when we're doing something by a rote, we're unconscious, we're unaware. And with that clarity and that awareness, we have choice, which is where this idea of going into action, changing what we want to do like that.
Awesome. Anne?
I'm finding lately I learned how to muscle test and I've been doing it again. So I'm getting this idea, push, push, push. I think you should be going this direction, push, push, push. And then I muscle test yes or no. And sure enough, it's a yes. So it helps me with believing in myself, I guess, to
Yeah.
have that.
Yeah, absolutely. I do muscle testing as well. And I love my pendulum. Use a pendulum. It's my friend. And sometimes when it's something very personal to me, I do need the validation of something I can see, like muscle testing or a pendulum.
I'm going to piggyback on that one because mine is to make sure that you have people within your circle that you can reach out to, because there are just times we can't connect. We're too cloudy and we need some help from someone. And don't be afraid to ask for it.
Mhm. I know you and I are really good with that. Yeah, I need somebody to hear what I'm. Am I hearing this right? Or I love that. That's really very, very helpful.
I'd love that. Oh, go Bridge first. I saw you.
Okay.
Rich and then Mark.
Okay. So it's interesting, this whole idea of being psychic or being open to that modality of knowing, because one could ask, what is the purpose of such a desire? Because the Sufis say, and all disciplines say, that these are part of our natural faculties, right? They're innate. It's just that we're so mesmerized by the sensory experience that we don't listen to these other channels. But my tip is that it has to begin with relaxation, being embodied, and stilling your ordinary thinking, restless mind. And once you settle, what Carrie was referring to as awareness or clarity begins to dawn, and these abilities, you'll naturally become more sensitive to all these things that Jan was asking about in her questionnaire. But suppose you did have access to all those things. So then, by the way, I've had experiences where I actually wanted to turn off these abilities. One shouldn't assume that, oh, well, I'll become a psychic and cultivate it, and that's always a pleasant experience. Not necessarily. What you see and what you become aware of may not be something you may want to welcome, including whatever intuitions of things that are happening in the world. So that is something to contemplate, I think. Purpose and context. Of course, if one wants to benefit others and one has some healing or some kind of context like that, then one can aspire to these things. Anyway, my basic tip is just stilling one's mind, because as everyone was saying, even when you have that intuitive glimpse, because your mind is still, then the mental consciousness kicks in. It wants to label it, immediately process it. It's sort of like a little bit like dreams, like in the morning when you wake up, you're intuitive and you're present with the last dream that you were having. But as you start thinking about it, you lose that intuitive dream state, whatever intuitive way of knowing was there. Personally, I also use the I Ching, or I don't know how it's pronounced, but I have great facility and faith in it, as a way to or tune into a source of wisdom that is beyond myself. I always supplicate and be open to guidance. And even though it's like a book, like different translations are available, but it's amazing what opens up if you're really open to it. Thanks.
That last statement, it's amazing what opens up when you're open to it. That's a big one. So how about you, Robert? What's your tip? I know you've got a dozen of them.
No, that being as far as being open to it, that often gets referred to as luck. Lucky people are people who are open for things to happen in their lives, and that really is kind of the key for all of this, is that you have to make room for things to happen. If your plate is already overflowing for stuff, new things are typically not going to happen in your life. So creating time for things to happen will bring things to you.
Yeah. Well, I was experimenting the other day too on that same note. A friend was going into an important meeting and texted me that morning, said, "Hey, would you mind sending some energy my way?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, absolutely. You've got this. It's going to be a great meeting." And then I went out to go walk the dog at the dog park. And I remembered that I had said I would, other than just saying, absolutely, I'll send energy. I thought, I would be more intentional about sending energy. And I've been watching A Wheel of Time, or The Wheel of Time. I don't know if anybody's caught that series yet or read the books. There's like 3 or 4 books about it. Anyway, one of the main characters in there, her name is Moraine, and I really related to her and feel like she was helping me remember some of my Atlantean skill sets. Or maybe I was just dreaming and wishing I had this skill set. And today I'm like, well, I'm just gonna be Moraine right now. She would, in the movie, she puts her arms out and she goes, and moves energy. I mean, it's just like, and I just started doing this and it felt so, I could just feel the energy. I broke out, I could feel the heat of my body came up. My energy was coming up and I was just doing this. And I'm like, I don't know what happened, but I carried on in my walk and I looked down right after this, and I always look for heart rocks at the dog park. It's my little sign. And I found that, well, I'll show it to you right here. I didn't know I was going to tell this story, but I found this little heart rock. It's little, you see? I went, oh, look, there's a little heart rock. And I picked it up, put it in my pocket with a zipper so I wouldn't lose it. Then I'm walking all along a little bit later, and I saw this one, which is now just a little bigger than that one. I walked on a little bit more, and I found this one. I mean, this is a very unusual day. I usually find maybe a heart rock, but I found another one, which is just a little bit bigger. And then right when I got almost to my car, I found the big one. And I have this little sequence of heart rocks. Well, right about that time, my dog had been chasing some other dogs. I like to run. And 2 dogs came up to me and they leaned into me. You know how dogs like to lean in, for a pet? These came and they leaned in from both sides, and I'm down, I'm petting them and everything. And the lady that owned one of the dogs, she said, my dog never allows anyone to pet her. And I'm like, well, she is today. And she was, I mean, she leaned into me. That dog wanted that energy. And I'm like, okay, these are my signs. And so that's my tip, is that we have more capabilities than we think we do. And so if something like that show was speaking to me, you know, take it on. You know, maybe that was my message to try it out. I don't know what happened, but I know the person's meeting went really well after that. And I know I found these heart rocks, which told me something. What are the heart rocks telling me? My heart is getting bigger. I don't know. Love is on the way. It could be a lot of different things. But what the dogs really helped to exemplify was your energy's way up there. And I was like, woo. And that was how I started my day. So it started very magical, but all of this kind of adding on all the tips that have already been shared, you know, the awareness, you know, being awake and aware to what's happening. And then I kind of overdid it that day. I had so much energy flowing that I ended up doing a 2-hour session with somebody, which is, it was really high energy, and I couldn't do anything yesterday. I cancel all my meetings. So, you know, I'm still on the learner's path of how to, you know, I have a lot of energy flowing. I have a lot of psychic ability, and it's increasing. And there's things to learn about it. So I have to spend the whole day being like I was yesterday. But fortunately, I rested up so I could be here for you guys today. But, so we're going to do just a little short meditation on this. I know we're going to still end right at the top of the hour, so it'll be a little abbreviated, more so than what we usually do. But before I do that, are there any questions or comments? All
I just
good?
wanted to add real quick, just along those tips, the practice came up a lot. And as we practice these things, whatever it is, if it's journaling, and I use embodied intuition, and I didn't even share that one, it's feeling it, but whatever it is, practicing it all the time. And then at the end, when you were talking about, you know, your energy, one of the biggest things is self-protection. And all of us need to be aware of that, not just when we're working with somebody psychically, but all the time, to have that bubble of love and protection around us, and to be able to cut cords when we're in a situation where we know that we have them. I'm done. Thank you for everything today. This is beautiful.
Wow. So, you know, I just want to say I'm planting a seed now, because I'm being very selfish, that I really would love this kind of a community. Can you just see this community growing, you know, and cultivating all of our gifts? So anyway, that's kind of like my little seed of intention going into this meditation. So, and my dog is going to bark. All right, I'm going to stop this part of the recording and start it again, so that we can have just the little meditation part to listen to later.